the Amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
Good evening and happy Sunday. I am Crystal L. Gunn, and welcome back to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. While you're getting settled in for the show, hit the share button, please, and share Amazing Women Speak so that your friends and followers can get in on this conversation. It's Women's History Month. And although we here at Amazing Women Speak, we celebrate Black women every month, but this month has an overall theme of my seat at the table. And we will hear from women who have carved out their seat at the table and, in some cases, built their own table and invited others to sit with them. So let's talk about it. Claiming her share, trailblazing Black women in their fields. But before we can get this thing started, Michele, thank you for joining me yet again. Thank you for saying yes to Amazing Women Speak.
Good evening.
Welcome to another episode.
Yes. What an honor it is to be here, sitting alongside of you one more time, having amazing conversations, right? Like when you started this thing, you created Women's Her Story Month, right? And so the fact that we are diving deeper in this particular month, that the calendar created space and you continue to hold this space for Black women is incredible. And I'm excited to be able to kick this conversation off with two guests that we don't know. And of course, the third who's been making history for a really long time. And that's my BFF. It is an honor to share this platform with you, especially this month, because you have taught us all the importance of owning her story and owning our amazing. And for that, I am grateful. But again, we can't have this conversation without introducing two amazing women to bring us into this space and tell their story and share a conversation with us about how they created, built, shoved others out of the way to make sure they had their seat at the table. So let's bring our guest on in, learn a little bit about them, and get ready for a deeper conversation. LaTonya, come on in and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Hi, ladies. I am LaTonya Barber. I am a small business owner, a mom of two. Love to travel, speaker, author, and so much more. And I'm excited to be here today.
Can't wait to hear about the so much more. Thank you for joining us. It's going to be an awesome hour of this, I am sure. Jennyfer, come in and introduce yourself.
Hello, ladies. I am Jennyfer Crawford-Williams. I am a small business advocate, a marketplace curator, a wife, a great bonus mom, and I'm happy to be here with you ladies as well.
Thank you, Jennyfer, for joining us. We like to call this the fastest hour of our day. These conversations go really, really quick. And as always, our listeners, we invite you to be a part of this conversation. Tell us a little bit about your story in the chat. Drop your questions in the chat as well. We always love to make you a part of these conversations. But like I said, fastest hour of your day. We don't do anything in shallow waters because we only got 55 minutes to have these conversations. So we like to launch deep. And as we think about the importance of this month and this topic, I want to open up this conversation by asking you simply, why was it important for the people that you are around, for the role model that you are, to create a seat? LaTonya.
Well, my entrepreneurship journey starts well over 20 years, and I know I don't look that old. I like to slip that one in from time to time. But I watched my father work 30 years plus in a plant, and then also serve over 30 years as a pastor. And I was thinking, my God, it's a lot of working for other people and not working for yourself. So it just kind of carved a space for me. We didn't grow up poor necessarily, but we grew up doing okay. And it caused me to get the education, but also seize other opportunities. And I'm actually glad that I did, because it's been rewarding for me, and I'm paving a way for my children and legacies after. So I'm grateful for that.
So LaTonya, when did you discover that legacy building was important?
After going to so many conferences, my entrepreneurship journey started when I was a part of the pyramid industry. So I would go to listen to the motivational speakers, and you would hear how you want to leave things for not just your children, but your children's children. And if you watch those big three companies, that's what they've done. If you watch Little Caesars, that's what they've done. All of the companies that we know here locally and nationally. And I have two sons. And so once I became a mother, it really became very important to me. My oldest son will be 19 next month. Woohoo! And again, I'm only 20. He'll be 19 next month. And I took that journey of legacy thinking very seriously once I became a mom.
Thank you for that. So Jennyfer, tell us a little bit about why it was important for you to create.
Well, it was important for me because it was the complete opposite for me in a way, is that we grew up when we were poor, and there's no entrepreneur in my family. And so for me, I was taught to go to work, and you go to work to pay bills. I wasn't encouraged to go to college. I wasn't encouraged to, all these different things that you see, and you go to school and you're around different people and you learn that it's so different. And so nothing against my parents. They were just going the way that they were raised. And everything was just all these things that I did not know anything about. I didn't know about owning a home. I didn't know about, any of those things. And it took me some time to actually change my way of thinking when I got in my 30s, when I started my business, to really see like there's so many different things. There's entrepreneurship. There is, owning your home and just building it and not being content with the bare minimum of in life. And when I say that, I don't mean like material things. I just mean like at any age, at any time, if you didn't go to college, you can educate yourself and know that there's a completely different world with so many different people that you can learn from. And so I was just inspired by the people that I met. I was inspired by the people that I worked with who are great mentors to me. And so I just wanted something different for myself.
So what made you take the leap, right? Like entrepreneurship is not for the faint at heart. What made you take that leap?
What made me take the leap is that I was miserable. I was miserable in my job, and I made the people around me miserable because all I did is let me complain about my job. I'm calling my friends and I get off work. Girl, let me tell you what happened to the job today. The boss said this today, and it said this, and it was just miserable. I would wake up every day miserable in my life to go to this place. And so I told a friend, I was selling like pure romance, and I wanted to pay my car off at the time. I wasn't very good at selling pure romance. And I started doing these events in my 1-bedroom apartment. And then I told my friend, I should just sell my furniture and, kind of do this full time. And she looked at me like, girl, you really hate that job that bad? And I'm like, yes, I do. But one thing that my boss said to me one day is that he called me a drop of oil and a bucket of water I did not mix. And he told me that I was not a go-getter. And that is just not anything you say to a determined Black woman. And so that was really the leap for me. I'm like, I'm a leap. I will, eat off the dollar menu. I will sit on the floor. But I just felt like I cannot be miserable anymore. I can't. It was just eating away at me. And when I look at old pictures and see certain things, I can see it in my face of what I looked like at that time. And I could tell like I was just not in a good place.
So when did you begin to discover that you were creating legacy?
When did I begin to discover that? It took a while for me. It took a while for me because I think that there's this thing, even though you're working on yourself and you're changing your way of thinking, you have to know that you are good enough. You have to know that what you're creating really means something. So I had an event April 3rd, 2016, after, doing events for, I would say 4 or 5 years. And so many people came out to support. There were business owners that said to me, like, you changed my life. And to me, that was the turning point for me to let me know, like, wow, I can do this. I am changing lives. I am changing lives by being my authentic, being myself and wanting others to succeed. So it was a turning point for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Like we get socialized into believing so many things that it narrows our thinking, right?
Yes.
And we continue to believe that we are only to exist inside of the box that the patriarchy said that we could exist inside of. And so even as we think about what legacy building means and what it looks like, right? Let the patriarch tell it. It's X amount of money in the bank. It's being able to provide financially 4 or 5 generations, right? And for many Black folks, that's just not the case in the current generation, right? So we also had to reframe what legacy meant for us. And what else could we be leaving our children that has a mark, leaves an imprint on their lives if I can't do it for 4 generations, right? What does it look like to do it for 1 generation? What does it look like for the legacy not to be necessarily connected to just dollar? Right? Breaking generational curses is legacy building. How do we begin to change the conversation so that we feel empowered, right? Like every one of our listeners isn't a business owner.
Absolutely.
Every one of our listeners, right, like is struggling just to get through the day. So the idea that they could create legacy is escaped on them, right? Like it just doesn't resonate. And I'd love to hear both of your stories about the beginning days that builds hope, right? And I say both. I'm going to say, I want to hear from the 3 of you about the beginning stages, right? Like when you got so miserable in your job, Jennyfer, you had to walk away. That resonates to me for some of what Crystal's story is, right? And so how you have to reframe the next step, that early part of the journey. Would love to hear you all talk a little bit about that so that the listener that's out there trying to figure just this thing out, knowing that her story is history making as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love that.
So LaTonya, tell us a little bit about the early journey.
The early journey for me as a business owner, not a distributor or anything like that, was in April, it'll be 26 years. I started with an event firm in April 26 years ago. And so I will tell you that when I first started, I remember going to so many weddings, and years ago I was in weddings. And so all I kept thinking was, it seemed like I'm supposed to be doing something, because I kept running into the same vendors, and I'm a talker, so I'm talking to them, and I'm like, it seemed like I should be connecting the dots, but I didn't know what it was. Back then it wasn't really a thing to be event planning or hearing a lot about it. And so I all of a sudden I called these vendors to a meeting at my home. You can't really do that now, but I called them to a meeting at my house, and I literally was talking to them, and they said, well, you're an event planner. You just tell people what you want to do and connect the dots and connect them with the vendors, and you can get paid for that. So as I started to study, I ended up doing, I think we averaged about 15 to 20 weddings the first year. Wow. And I remember it was goof off because I wasn't taking trainings. You were just kind of learning fly by night. No one could tell me how to be an event planner at that time. And so I remember making a lot of mistakes. And I will tell you, after the first 5 years of just kind of trial and error, I got really solid with my business. I connected with the Michigan Association for Female Entrepreneurs. With that organization, they offered mentorship. They had workshops and different things that can help you as a business owner. Because again, I was a person that had the education, but in college, do they teach you how to start a business for real?
Right.
So I'm feeling like I'm out here failing for 5 years. And then I got with this organization. And to me, I got a little bit more structured with what I do. So while I will do a wedding, my wedding business may average about maybe a good 3 to 5%. I'm more corporate. I'm more trade shows. I got a whole lot more other stuff that we do. And I will tell you since then that you hear the saying about you can make 7 streams of income. I believe in having 7 streams of income in one business. Okay. So I don't believe in having, I got to do Mary Kay, Avon, and everything else on the side. We're not doing that. I'm like, under this one business, let me find 7 ways to make money under this one business. And with that, I've launched my book. I'm getting ready to print that. We do, of course, events, but I train. I have a whole lot of different compartments to help me generate 7 streams of income under that one business. But I have 3 businesses. Anyway, in a nutshell, that's what the history started as.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that and really challenging us to think about that 7 streams of income mindset.
Yes.
And how do you make one thing work really, really well for you, that you're not stretching yourself so thin that you don't have time to enjoy the things in life. So Jennyfer, tell us about your early story.
Oh, the early story. The early story, just, it was a lot of learning. Honestly, in October 2014, when I actually quit my job, I had about $1,500 in the bank. And the thing for me, it was just me. I didn't have a family. I didn't have children. So, if people, when they have children and they have a family, like, people are solely dependent on them, it's hard to just kind of take that leap and just kind of jump in. So when people say like, oh, sure, I quit, I got 4 kids, I'm like, wait a minute now, you got a couple of mouths to feed. So it was a little different for me because it was just me. I only had myself to take care of. And so, the early journey was a lot of learning. Honestly, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what this was. I didn't know what my business model was. All I knew is that I was putting together these events, which actually started out as pamper parties for people to actually sell their products. And I just wanted to kind of empower the friends around me who actually sold things. And it became fun, and it became a go-to thing to do. And then to me, it got boring, right? Because I'm a person who's just like, what are we really doing for real? Are we setting any goals for ourselves? We're hosting this event in a bar. And I said, oh my God, so many people are moving to Detroit. I see all these different faces and different colors and everything that's here. And it's like all of a sudden, Detroit is like the bomb, right? And I'm like, I'm born and raised here. I'm like, oh, I should just do something called All Things Detroit, where I focus on Detroit small businesses. And so one of the guys who I used to host All Things Detroit, the very first one was at Nikki's Lounge in Greektown, and nobody really remembers that. It was in a bar. We're walking up steps, we're carrying products, and it wasn't the jam. It wasn't the go-to. And so for me, it was just like, what could this really mean? Like, what are you really trying to do? And as I thought about it, I went over to another Black-owned business to kind of do All Things Detroit, and it did not work out very well. I cried. It did not go the way I wanted it to go, but people actually came out to support it. And so I'm still working my job. It's still a task. I'm still trying to figure out what this is. And then I did not quit. I took my rent money and actually paid for the Eastern Market Shed 3 because I felt like I could always get a job. Let me just see what I can do. And so I had an event at Eastern Market, and that is when I really started to think about, and after I had that event, I went home that Monday and I quit my job. I'm like, I'm quitting my job. Not a lot of money. It's that $1,500 that was not really going to take me very far. But within that, though, it was like I had to sit down and honestly, I prayed to say, what did I do? First thing I did was cancel cable, because when you broke, you can't have cable. And I said, and I was like, God, if you give me direction, I need direction to know exactly what this is. I am definitely going to stay true to what it is of that purpose that you put on my heart, but I really need to know what that is. And so the message that I received from that was that if you are going to do this, you have to be different, and you have to serve. And you have to serve people, and you have to share their stories. There are people who are like you, who have a talent, who are miserable in their job, or just don't know what to do. And it is your job to give them hope and be their cheerleader. And so the beginning part for me was like figuring out what my purpose was. And I found out that my purpose and my passion is people. And I like to talk as well. And I always felt like I didn't have a talent, and I would always tell my sister, like, I don't have a talent. I just know how to talk all day. And she would say, but guess what? Now, your business is promoting other people's talents. So, my passion has to been seeing other people thrive in what it is that they're doing, whether they're an event planner, whether they sell handmade soaps, whatever it is that your business is. I found out my purpose in the early stages. It has been really tough. And even just celebrating, 10 years of All Things Detroit this year is still a struggle of just learning, right? Learning yourself, learning what works and what doesn't work. But one thing that I don't change, and I always tell people that I don't change for any amount of money, any amount of anything, is the formula and the purpose. Because once you let go of that, then it just changes. And so for me, just in the beginning, even now, like I say, the struggle of just, it's a lot to run a business. It's not oh, I don't feel like working today. Don't work, don't eat, right? It's like, it's finding balance. It's finding all of those things, and I'm still working on finding balance. And so just the early times of doing this, it was difficult, but I'm excited, right? I feel my husband actually said to me, and I didn't even realize this until I met him, where he says, "Oh wow, you created your own job. I've never heard of a marketplace curator before." And I said, "I like you. Yeah, I guess what I did. Okay, I'm gonna keep you around." And so, I've been able to build these relationships with Downtown Detroit Partnership, the Joe Louis Greenway, the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, just all of these partnerships with these companies. And I had no idea that I would be able to do the things that I've done in the magnitude of bringing so many people together just to support businesses and actually being able to curate spaces, public spaces, where, I feel like people who look like us have a chance to really shine. And I want to be able to keep putting those people in place.
Jennyfer, I absolutely celebrate you for creating a space where you're allowing other people to find their history-making moments, right? So I thank you for the way that you have leaned into what your gifts are. And so we have had a lot of women on our show who have walked away from their corporate job and entered into the entrepreneurial space. I'm not one of them. I absolutely love my job. And so there's that piece of it, right? Like there's still an exit strategy that I have to consider. And it's around what's not serving me, right? Like, so one of the messages I want our listeners to hear is that you don't have to quit your job, right? Like, or maybe you're not ready to. Crystal, what's the exit strategy? Again, it doesn't just apply to finances. It applies to toxic relationships. It applies to anything that's not serving you. How do we think about an exit strategy from those things that even creates the space that allows us to think about our own history-making moments?
You nailed it when you said the things that no longer serve you. We have been, and we say this often on this show, that we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned to do these things. And part of that conditioning is to continue to do things that no longer serve us, because we got to pay the bills, because someone's going to say something if we don't do this, that, or the other. And doing that and continuing to do the things that no longer serves you is killing you. Spiritually, physically, it's showing up as stress and disease in your body. And it's such a freeing thing. Now, I can tell you on the financial side how to set up the exit strategy, but I'm also the person that will wake up and say, I can't do this anymore. And I quit, right? Because the biggest thing that has allowed me to do what I do is the faith. And understanding and knowing, okay, Jennyfer, like you said, $1,500. Okay, but I have the faith to know that whatever I need is going to be provided for. And so, I don't suggest that people just decide. I don't suggest that people just decide to quit one day. I don't, it's a lot going on, and it costs a whole lot more today than it did 10, 15 years ago to do a thing. But we have to start moving with intentionality, right? We have to be intentional on how we want to live the rest of our lives. And when you stop and shut off all the noise and really start to think about it, it's going to come. Sometimes you got to ask, because I had to ask, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And I was asking in the middle of a storm, right? Like the middle of a financial storm, because I had, quit my job. But I was asking in the middle of a financial storm. But the reason why I quit in the first place was because it just wasn't serving me. And this was one of the first jobs that I quit, y'all. So, but the answers came clear as day, right? And it's a forever cycle. You just don't decide, I'm going to put my foot in it, and it's just going to blow up overnight. And it's just going to be all of the things, and it's going to replace all of the income and all of those things. But I believe when you're intentional and you find the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and in that it's serving and blessing others, I believe your gifts will make way for you. Your gifts will make way for you. But again, you got to think about it. It's being intentional. A lot of people move. I had someone call me and they wanted to do this, that, and the other. And I said, you're not ready. And I'm not trying to crush your dreams, but you're not ready because you really don't know what you want to do yet.
Yes.
And I think you have to, even if you don't know the how, you do have to know the what.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
It is. I think a lot of people don't know. They'll just say, I want to have a business and I think I could do this and this will be great. And they'll say, what is the plan? I had someone ask me, they said, well, you believe in astrology? Because an astrologist told me that this is my space. And I said, I think that sounds great. I think that sounds amazing. But I said, but an investor wants to see, an investment means an investment. Right. And so they don't want to hear what the astrologer has to say. And it's not to crush your dreams, but it's like, even in owning a business, you have to really know where you are in your business. You have to know where you are. And a lot of times people don't know where they are in their business. They just know that they want to have one. Or if someone gave me $1 million, it's like, okay, someone gave you $1 million today. Do you know what it would boom, boom, boom? Do you know everything that would go to? And they'll be like, well, and it's like, right. You have to know where you are. And I'm honest when I say, sometimes I feel like if I had this myself, I wouldn't know what to say, right? It's like knowing where you are in your business. And a lot of times, there's some things that you're just not ready for. And I could say, like, even myself, there were things even right now in a sense that I want to work on. And I know that is a process because I'm not ready for them. And so I definitely understand that.
So there is this, right, like this self-conversation that you have to have. There's some self-work that you have to do. So LaTonya, what would you say to your younger self right now?
I'm sitting here thinking about this conversation, and I can recall the jobs that I've worked, especially after divorce. I picked up a job and was trying to run my business on the side because I was thinking, like I think Jennyfer mentioned earlier, I was a mom. So I'm thinking, okay, well, you don't want to get into a hard place. Mm-hmm. What I discovered was every time I would get a job, I would always lose the job. And it was funny because I said this last time that this happened to me, I said, okay, Lord, you have jokes. I said, go get a job because I'm trying to be a provider for my home. I'm a single mom. I said, but you're forcing me out because entrepreneurship is my journey. Mm-hmm. And I was afraid. And it's okay that you're afraid. And sometimes even as a mother, and I know that that's not easy, like how you mentioned, I think 4 kids, you might want to rethink about it. But sometimes it's intended for that person to take the leap because it's going to force you to work the plan that much harder. Faith without works is dead. And most people want to have faith, but they don't want to do the work. And you have to do the work. And so with me, I was taking the easy route. The job was the easy route. So with my business, I had all these ideas and they never stop. I keep having plans. But I'm working. So you giving somebody 40 plus a week. And then when it's time to do your business, you're tired or you got to do something for the kids or you got to run them here and there. And so I said, okay, Lord, I said, you want me to really do this thing as an entrepreneur. I said, well, you're going to have to show me what I'm supposed to be doing. And I promise you, the moment I yielded myself to it fully, it's been like nonstop business, nonstop clients, referrals just coming out of nowhere because I yielded myself versus subjecting myself to 40 hours for someone else, building their empire. And I was a threat. And I didn't even want to be a threat. I didn't want your position. I don't want to be your director. I don't want none of that. I'm just trying to make ends meet for my kids while I build mine. But they looked at me as a threat because now you're educated and you're smart. But they want to keep you at a certain place so they can kind of pull you like this. But when you're an entrepreneur, you can actually determine how far you're going to go with that. And so I've always written out a plan, but I don't feel like I've always executed that plan well. And I heard, I think it was Steve Harvey say that, you got to write that vision, make it plain, and you got to run with it. And now that I've done that, I can just see the fruits of my labor. This is a true story. I literally wrote just in December, I believe it was, that I want to have speaking opportunities. I promise you, by December, I was booked through July. And I'm like, I'm not even really a speaker for real. But when I tell you, speaking opportunities never stop. Literally spoke last Sunday. Now on your podcast, got 2 in April. When I say it's like non-stop. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's okay. But you have to free yourself to be able to do that. Because if I'm working for somebody, I'm not necessarily free to be able to do that the way that it's supposed to be done. So now as I look at you, what you're saying, I'm like, in some cases, once you seek and pray about it, some of you are going to have to take the leap. And that's just being honest. It's not intended for everybody to take the leap. Some people will need to talk to Crystal about an exit strategy. But you're going to have to take the leap, because once you take that leap, you're gonna work that plan to really get the results that you're supposed to have. And they always say you got to crawl before you walk. That's not true for everybody. That's really not true for everybody. Some people end up being a one-hit wonder, and it just happens overnight, and they didn't even know that they had this gift, or they didn't know that they had $1 million business. So I just, I really think that sometimes we look at what everybody else is doing instead of really honing in on what we're supposed to be doing. And I've learned to do that. I don't compare myself to planners. I never have. I train a lot of them, so I don't even do that. And I give a lot of them business. But for me, I look at what I'm supposed to be doing, and I focus on that. My event is not supposed to be like everybody else's. My nonprofit is not supposed to be like everybody else's. And when we hone into what we're supposed to do and work that plan, I promise you're going to see results.
I love it. So Jennyfer, in reflection, what's the letter that you would write to yourself? What's the story, the conversation you would have with your younger self?
One of the things I would say to my younger self is that you are enough. Believe in yourself. You are stronger than you think that you are. And don't worry about what people think. And I think that was that thing of changing my way of thinking. I agree with everything you said. Just planning an event and doing the things. I don't focus on what everybody else is doing, the social media and all this, and that none of that. And the reason that when I said if you have 4 kids, because I've had friends who have kids, and when I'm like, oh, I quit, they be like, girl, like, and it was like a whole thing, like they wanted to beat me up because I said something about quitting. That's why I'll be telling, look, 4 kids, do what you do. But anyway, they was coming after me hard. Like, you don't know the struggle. I'm a mama. I'm like, okay. But no, I would just definitely say that you are enough. Don't focus on what people think, and that you can do anything you set your mind to.
Yeah.
You are amazing, right? Like, you can do it. It's not just like a father telling his little girl, like, you can do it, but knowing yourself that you can do it. And I think that was some of the things that in the beginning, in my younger self, that kind of held me back, of the self-esteem challenge. Because I used to say, even when starting this business, is that I would say, I would be good to do an interview about it, but I don't want to do an interview about it until I lose 50 pounds, right? Because I felt like that is the thing that I just didn't want people to see, this thick lady sitting up there talking about whatever it is, because that was the insecurity in myself. And then God said, no, here you go. Here it's your turn. Right. And so that over time has blown up into, all of these different things where I'm on the news and doing different media. So now I have a weekly news segment on CBS Detroit every Monday in the 9 o'clock hour. And that is a blessing and a great opportunity. And when I go up there to speak about it, there's not me thinking about the look, the weight, the anything. So just, being comfortable with yourself and knowing that you are enough and love yourself. That self-love aspect is so important, and it's a journey every day. But when you know yourself and I feel like it's so much easier to really just try to, push through, because if you're mad at yourself and you feel some type of way, you're not going to show up as your best self. So for me, it's just tone out that negative energy, get rid of those friends who's not your friends, and really just pay attention and pour into you and not pour into other people. Pour into yourself first, and then you'll be able to do the work that, God has put you here to do.
Absolutely. Right. We've said on the show many times, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
And your vessel is the most important vessel that you own. And if you can take care of that, you can certainly give yourself in other spaces. So we took a look back. It is now 2052. I've picked up the article, Women's History Month, Black Women, Her Story. LaTonya, what am I reading about you?
You are reading that I not only have an event company, but that you are reading that I went back to school to learn American Sign Language. I started a nonprofit to bridge the gap between the deaf, hard of hearing, and hearing populations, because there is definitely a gap there. And I have a hearing loss myself. And so I'm helping people to understand that there's a culture there that, first of all, you're probably missing out on business because you can't communicate with them. And then there's people that don't even get a chance to communicate with family members because there's a hearing issue. And so I'm just helping to bridge the gap. So if there's a give back component to me, that's one of them. And then I love the fact that I have launched this baking company, thinking about my mom. My mom passed in 2021, and she was awesome in the kitchen. So we are kind of building up certain entities of businesses, my sister and I, and this is because of our children, our family, just making sure that we keep legacy alive, so to speak. So you're reading the other entities that I've established for myself.
I love that. Jennyfer, what are we reading about you?
What are we reading about, Jennyfer? So you are reading about me that All Things Marketplace is a shipping and fulfillment center for local makers and nonprofits that I started in 2020. Is now a nationwide in every city, where we're also able to support small businesses locally in every city with All Things Marketplace. We have warehouses in every city where we are really shipping and fulfilling for small business owners. It's not Amazon, it's All Things Marketplace, because when you shop with All Things Marketplace, you are intentional with shopping local. You see the face and you know the brand that you're buying from. It's a little bit different. So with All Things Marketplace, I plan to have that in every city. And then also I love to marketing, creative concepts, where I'll be creating marketing brands for small business owners, where different brands, more commercials in a sense, and not just like online digital marketing, just fun and creative aspects of marketing. And then, as we said, I am a talker. So this voice of mine, it's just heard everywhere, where I feel that, you know, I might be sitting next to Gayle King one day on CBS mornings talking about the next small business owner that is, you know, my focus will still be on highlighting that small business. The only thing is that I'm putting Gayle on what small business she should be talking about. And so that's what I feel.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So we talk about history making, events, moments, ideas. What becomes most important, especially for those of us who have little humans in this world, is that piece of that impact, right? So that when your child, your bonus child, picks up that article in 2052, they get to discover something amazing about their mom, right? Like our children become our biggest why in creating the legacy and having a story to tell, right? And so just wanting to remind our listeners that no matter where you are in your journey, you have a story to tell. It does not, and it should not look like LaTonya's, Jennyfer's, or Crystal's. It absolutely needs to look like what God has ordained for your journey to look like. To sit in that and to embrace that is your opportunity to make your own history. I'm so very grateful for the ways that you told your stories. So very powerful for each one of us to be able to learn from Black women that you can walk away, you can stay, you can go back, right? Like Crystal will quit a job in a moment. Like if it's not serving her, she's going to walk away from that. Not many folks can do that. And I've never seen her come out of a struggle and say like, nope, I got to go back to this 9 to 5 because it has, right? Like, so being able to discover that part about you, if you aren't failing, you will never succeed.
That's true.
Never succeed. And so being able to discover what those failures were, let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because women need to know that it didn't, right? Like everything, every step was not perfect, and that you stayed in it, you stayed faithful, you trusted the process, whatever that process needed to look like. What was your almost I can't moment?
I would say for me, finances, you know, being self-employed, self-taught, and not understanding the taxes, and doing my own taxes. And I'm thinking, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you get someone, right? And you've been in business X number of years, and this is something that's so important that needs to be taken care of. Understanding, quarterly taxes, sales tax, like all of those things. And so that was a hard thing for me, of having to bring someone in who knows what they're doing, because I didn't know what I was doing. And that goes back to what I said about knowing where you are. And so that was a struggle for me, just the financial part of it, understanding like this money that's coming in, and putting a certain amount away for taxes, because this, and like all of that. And it was really hard, and it was a hard lesson to learn, because when that bottom dollar hit, it's like, whoa, okay, I got to take care of this. And I think that it can be surprising to, some business owners, because they think that you see, learning that when $20,000 comes in, or $25,000 or $30,000 comes in, there's so many things you have to do with that. But the number one thing is that you got to pay Uncle Sam, right? And knowing that, and I had to learn that. And that's something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs make a mistake with. And that was something that I did after being in business for a certain time, that I definitely had to get an accountant and, learn like what that looks like. So that was one of the number one things for me, was financial and keeping my paperwork in order.
LaTonya, what about for you?
I would agree. I remember when I had the epiphany of thinking, girl, you're the CEO, but you're the HR department, the finance department, the sales team, accounting. And I had an epiphany of you're all of these departments. And so when you're thinking like that, I discovered, I'm good at sales and marketing. I'm good at planning, but I failed at the finance. I failed at hiring people. I didn't hire all the right people sometimes. There were moments where I failed at even organization with like paperwork and taxes, even just simple things of writing a business plan. There are a lot of businesses who fail just because they won't write a plan, the business plan, the marketing plan. You have to write these things out. And if you're the person that want to talk sometimes, you don't want to do the paperwork sometimes. All of those are not the same people. So you have to who to hire, when to hire, and do the research behind that. So I would agree that definitely finances, but I had some struggles in there along the way when I discovered I was all of those departments. I failed a lot of those departments because I was good with the sales, marketing, and event planning, but then when it came to hiring, oh no, I was horrible. The people I was hiring.
Oh, same. The hiring for me too. The hiring was horrible.
Hiring, finance, so there's going to be some struggles, and there's going to be some trials and errors. There's been moments I've paid money and invested in people and lost, but then there's been moments where people have probably invested in me, especially in the early years, and they lose. So it's not necessarily something that I'm proud of. It's just some learning that you do along the way. You're going to learn. Did I pay in this advertisement? Was it successful for me? A lot of people don't even go back and measure an event to see if it's successful or not. I'm getting ready to do my expo that we've done here in Michigan for 9 years. And I promise you, I look at every part of this event to make sure that it's going to be successful going forward rather than me. I've heard people say, well, I was in a red. What? I can't be in a red. You're speaking foreign to me right now. What do you mean? So I promise you, you're going to see that. Even as long as I've been in business, I still will see things. But I think wisdom causes you to identify it early and get a handle on it versus just kind of letting things go by the wayside and hope for the best. So I would say that there's a lot of failure there, but it's room to grow. And there's plenty of classes and webinars that can teach you. You don't have to necessarily go to college for the learning. You can attend a free webinar. There's so many different things going on. LinkedIn even offers a lot of training that people don't seem to know about. And you can learn so many things to help you be successful along the way.
I want to chime in here and add my 2 cents. For me, it was lack of faith in myself. Right. And I had to, it was the serious conversation and that realization that I didn't choose this. God chose this for me. And if God chose it for me, who am I to think that I can't do it? But that also comes with some self-work though, right? And it's a continuous process because as you continue to build, to grow, and to continue to elevate up, there's still processes and learning. And I always say, we're not failing, we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
if you're not learning something new, then something isn't. You dogs don't bark at parked cars, right?
That's
so
true. That's
the
true.
things are going to happen, and you got to figure it out. But going back to that, what would you say to your younger self? Do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep moving and borrow the faith that God has in you.
Yeah.
Until you have the faith in yourself to do the things.
That's good.
That is. It's really good. And it's a talk that you got to continue to have with yourself as you grow. Like all the time, like, okay, I can do this. And sometimes,
I agree.
It's that work you talk about, right? Like always doing the work. And a lot of time the work is within yourself. So I love that.
So we are in the Black community thirsty for Black women who are in history-making moments. Our children need to see that more and more.
Yeah.
They need to see examples of what success looks like at so many different levels. Social media is teaching the wrong story about what success is supposed to look like. And so they're chasing these things that aren't real, that aren't attainable. And then they are trying to figure out why they aren't successful. Creating Black women who are amazing, who are making history every single day, who are reshaping the narrative of what it means to be a strong Black woman, of what it means to be resilient, of what it means to be faithful, of what it means to go into uncharted territories and leave your mark. Mostly what it means to create your own seat at the table, to ensure that there is space for another Black girl to sit next to you.
Yeah.
That you understand that if we're going to do this right, it's not just me and I. It's that we have to be a collective for each other. We have to build community for each other. And what Amazing Women Network does so well is to remind us of the importance of uplifting and encouraging one another. There's enough tear down on the block.
Yeah.
That we don't need to create one more avenue, one more space, one more platform for that. Our Black girls are thirsty for an example of what it is to start creating every single day. We are waiting for our next Malcolm, our next Martin. My statement always is, why not you? We are waiting. The space is there. And we have both Jennyfer and LaTonya here tonight sharing a little bit of their story that makes us realize that it is possible to do the thing that everybody thought you could not do, to evaluate for yourself what it means to be successful, and to do that thing that way with resilience and with the fortitude, with the intentionality to say, this is my space, I own it. And because nobody else would, I created my own table. And for that, Jennyfer, LaTonya, I thank you for doing just that. I told you this is the fastest hour of your day. We scratched the surface of really understanding what it means to be a Black woman in 2024 doing the dang thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing your thing in two unique spaces that we don't get to hear often about, for sharing your story. Again, Jennyfer, I applaud you for creating spaces for other small businesses to come and really understand how to create their mark in their communities and to educate us on the importance of buying back into our communities. LaTonya, thank you for making us dream bigger around what an event needs to look like, starting in one and growing, and really understanding that you can have this gift and utilize it to change the world.
Absolutely.
First, making some bride happy somewhere along the way and growing from there. I'm very grateful for both of your gifts in sharing and creating history in the moment, that in 2052, I can't wait to pick up the magazine and read about all the manifestations that you have made. So very grateful. Crystal, could not kick this month off without elevating what you do for Black women every single week, every single day. You impact women who have never physically been in a room. You, my friend, are women's history personified. I'm grateful to be able to share this platform with you week after week. I'm grateful to be able to call you my best friend. I am grateful because you understood the assignment that God put on your life and you remain obedient despite all odds. 3 amazing Black women. Her story is our history. And I'm very, very grateful for each and every one of you tonight. Crystal.
Whew, another great episode. When I tell you I love what I do in every single space, I absolutely love it. And I think being that authentic person, to be recognized for the things that I do. I was out one day and someone said, "Aren't you the finance lady?" And I was like, yeah, actually I am. And so just leaving that imprint, Michele, you talked about that legacy, and that legacy not necessarily being the business, the legacy not necessarily being the money or the things, but that legacy being changing the way that somebody thinks, changing the narrative, right? Changing the way that someone looks at themselves. I think those are the legacies too that are really, really important that we leave. And every single week, we see women on this show that are leaving those type of legacies. Yes. So Jennyfer and LaTonya, I applaud you both. I knew this year, I was like, okay, I was making my list on who I needed to be on the show. And you two definitely were at the top of the list. So I am so grateful for you. I am so grateful for what you do. And the world is watching, and the world is better for it. Michele D. Harper. Wait till we get to the last episode for this month. That one is just for you, my dear. It's just for you. I'm clear, and I know you lifted me up all of the time, but I am clear that this show, Amazing Women Speak, is as good as it is as dynamic as it is, because of the way that you come on here and curate these conversations every single Sunday. It's one of your many gifts, and I am grateful for it. I am grateful that you said yes. I was telling LaTonya before we started the show that I asked, well, what do I have to do to get you to host the show with me? And you said, all you got to do is ask. I'm glad I asked, and I'm glad you said yes. I would not want to do this with anybody else but you. So thank you very much for that. My name is Crystal L. Gunn. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing.
So Jennyfer, how can folks find you? There's a little entrepreneur in all of us some kind of way, right?
Yes.
And I think that we can start this thing small. How can folks find you and learn about the gifts that you offer?
Yes, I always tell people that, you know what, I am everywhere, right?
And you are.
But people can go to my website, which is askjennyfer.com, and that's JENNYFER. And actually, it's Ask Jennyfer all across the board. But I'm celebrating 10 years of All Things Detroit, April 7th at the Easter Market. We're in sheds 3, 4, and 5. I just have to say that. And that's where I'll be celebrating small businesses. We have over 200 businesses. The most customers we've had in one day is 14,000. We're hoping to beat that record, and we just want people to come out and support. If you can't come out and support financially in that way, just share and tell someone about, these amazing businesses that we worked with. But lots of things coming up, and all that information is available on askjennyfer.com. On Facebook, Instagram, it's all Ask Jennyfer.
Thank you. LaTonya, how can folks find you?
I am probably everywhere as well. Most of my social media handles will be LaTonya Nicole eventpro. I also have 3 websites that I can share. I'm behind the Women's Expo website is I'mEveryWomanExpo.com. We're launching that event celebration in March 30th to be exact. And then I also have my businesses, Eloquets.com. It's ELOQUETS.com. And also for my nonprofit, Deaf Unite. Deaf is DEAF, unite.org. And so you can find me behind all of those websites. I'm very accessible. And then we have, of course, we're on TikTok and all of the other social media outlets as well. So, but LaTonya Nicole, eventpro, or LaTonya Barber. And I'm more than welcome to or happy to share with anyone that has any questions.
Thank you both. Thank you for sharing. You're amazing. My name is Michele Harper. I am a Black woman, and without apology, I own my amazing. Jennyfer.
I am Jennyfer Crawford-Williams. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing.
Thank you. LaTonya.
My name is LaTonya Barber. I am a Black woman, and I am owning my amazing.
I absolutely love it. I love it. I love
all
it.
Day, every day.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. I pray this
Thank you.
conversation has been insightful, has touched somebody, has sparked somebody to believe in them and step out, not necessarily quitting your job today, but step out on an entrepreneurship journey and
Definitely.
understand that you can do it. Your gifts will make way for you. Please find Amazing Women Speak on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and Spotify, and whatever your favorite platform. Like, subscribe, and then find an episode that speaks to your soul. I'm sure you will find many, and then share those episodes with somebody else. Be a blessing and spread this celebration. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you to those who tune in each and every week. Thank you to everyone who has been dropping comments during this episode. Be sure to tune in next week as we continue this My Seat at the Table theme for Women's History Month. I will see you all next week.